If you give me 10 minutes, I'm going to explain to you the biggest life lesson that I wish I knew about life 10 years ago. I hope by watching this video until the end, it inspires you to make a change or to make a decision that you've been sitting on for a while. The biggest life lesson that I have learned, but especially in the past 2-3 years, is on the willingness to walk away. I have personally walked away from a corporate career that didn't serve me anymore, a job that I hated, certain people, in order to find a new version of myself. And even last year, I had a little bit of social media success in a pretty good niche, and I pivoted out of that as well. And I'm coming full circle with this, but what happens when you walk away is that you're actually creating space in your life for new and better things. In order to experience that next chapter of your life and the next great thing, you have to be willing to walk away from what you currently have. And this feels super scary and uncertain, right? But here's the thing, most people, they live life in this gray zone, this mediocre zone where nothing is really that bad, but it's also not that great either. And what happens is that they also spend time with other people that are also living life in this gray mediocre zone, because who you spend time with and who you choose to partner with romantically is a direct reflection of yourself and your own needs in life. Walking away is hard because it requires you to do some deep soul searching. It requires you to have hard conversations. It requires you to process some negative emotions. It requires you to face a little bit of uncertainty and chaos in the short term. And most people, they would rather avoid having hard conversations. They would rather run away from their feelings, right? Most people don't want to deal with uncertainty or chaos. Most people would rather run away from these things than to sit front and center and face what needs to change. But if you never face yourself and you are always avoiding hard conversations, you are avoiding facing your feelings, you always end up going back into this mediocre gray zone. And you can easily waste years, if not decades, of your life in this area. So if you have a little voice inside your head that is telling you, I think I deserve better, or I want better, or it could be better, then trust that voice, right? And listen to yourself, because you don't just have these voices that are planted into your head for no reason. And if something doesn't feel good to you, make sure you choose yourself. Don't worry about what other people say or what other people think, because you don't need to fit into someone else's narrative about how you should be living your life. And all of these decisions that I made, I owned up to and I took action on consistently, and I showed up for myself. And even though walking away opened up a lonely period of my life, I think I needed that. Right? I needed that because it taught me so many things about myself. It taught me that I can trust my own gut feeling and my own instincts, especially when it comes to decision making. It taught me that I have pretty good judgment when it comes to who's worth trusting and listening to and who isn't. And it also gave me the confidence that I have what it takes to be on my own and walk my own path in life. So for you, whether it's walking away from a job that you hate, a career that doesn't serve you anymore, family whose values you don't align with anymore, friends that aren't enriching your life anymore, business relationships like clients or employees where it's not working anymore, a romantic relationship where you're not getting what you need or it's just not working anymore. Remember that you only get the power back when you walk away, because walking away is a sign of strength, not weakness. Let me de-influence you guys a little bit and tell you an interesting perspective. I don't even consider myself to be that smart or talented. For example, I got a C+ in calculus in university because I'm not good at math. I scored in the 50th something percentile when I wrote the LSAT on my first attempt. And the point I'm trying to make is that I don't really care or think about these things. I think one of my actual gifts is the ability to move very quickly and take on a lot of work all at once without burning out. I see a lot lot of people trying to bubble wrap their kids, bubble wrap themselves from making any sort of mistake, or they just fear failure so much that they can't even take a leap of faith. But what that really does is that just puts you back in that same gray area, mediocre zone of life where nothing ever really moves forward. And it's ironic because the more you bubble wrap yourself and the more you bubble wrap your life, the harder your life actually becomes. You're okay with handling a little bit of risk and uncertainty, which most people are not, and trusting yourself that you have the acumen and the judgment to make the right decisions for you and your life, then you're gonna live a far more rewarding life. And there's never going to be a right time to do anything, right? Like by the time you wait for the right time to do something, that opportunity is gone. Right? And I'm talking specifically more so in the context of business. Like, for example, I run a cold email agency, and I can tell you what worked last year doesn't work this year anymore. What worked last quarter might not work this quarter anymore. You know, life moves on, businesses move on, people move on, industries get saturated very quickly. And so if you don't seize the opportunity as soon as it's presented you, it's going to fly by very quickly before you know it. And you do not need to wait for circumstances to be perfect. Okay, because by the time you wait for circumstances to be perfect, that opportunity is already gone. It's okay to want to have plans, right, and want to have answers and want to execute, perfectly. That's normal. But again, like I always say, just execute first and figure things out later, because more often than not, by the time you figured out how to execute something so perfectly in your mind, that opportunity is gone. And so for example, if you want to start a business, what you need to get your offer in front of a customer, right? You don't need an LLC, you don't need a fancy office space, you don't need the bells and whistles, you don't need a perfect VSL or anything like that. You just need to get your offer in front of someone. You don't need your social media posts to be all perfect and beautiful and create cinematic video production quality like I do now. You just need to get started and start posting, and just make it better as you go along. At least that's what I did. And I mean, look at my content today compared to what it used to be like, right? Let me tell you something about the 10% rule, which is something that I just made up. You only need to be 10% better than everyone else. Why does Connor McDavid make $12.5 million a year? It's because he is 10% better. He is 10% better than all the other players in the league, just 10%. He's still a regular person, right? He still has to get along with everyone else. He still has to practice with the rest of the team. He's still a regular person that has feelings, right? But he is 10% better in his skill, and that is what allows him to receive and reap 90% of the financial reward. The difference between the team that wins the Stanley Cup Finals, the team that wins the NBA championship, the team that wins the Super Bowl, and the team that doesn't is usually just in a couple of things. It's like one goal, right? Like one touchdown, one shot, one player that makes the difference, right? Like one period, one quarter, one penalty, like whatever it usually is just like one or two things, right? It's not like a huge difference. And so, yeah, like 10% better, right? The team that wins, the person that wins is always just 10% better, and they get 90% of the reward. If you want to be better than other people, you just need to be 10% better. 10% a little bit better at how you allocate your time, how you think, how you take action, how you bounce back from failures. Just 10% better, and that will automatically lead to 90% of the reward. Last note I'll leave you guys on. You guys have all heard of the phrase, you are the average of the 5 people that you spend time with, and it's absolutely true. It's the quality of relationships in your life that matter, not the quantity. When you're young, pretty much anyone that you share a laugh with, that you have something in common with, that you spend time with can be your friend. But the older you get, the more you realize that, whoever you let into your life, their problems, the things that they complain about, basically become your problems as well. So if you want to self-improve, if you want to make money specifically, like those things are hard. Making money is really hard as is. And so if you, on top of that, are allocating too much time and energy and focus to distracting relationships or a messy personal life and a lot of drama, it's going to make it even harder. Or another way you can see it is that you're going to end up making less money because you have to spend your energy dealing with all these other things. If it means having more quality people in your life, better connections, and real friends, then so be it, right? I take that any day of the week. If you guys like this video today, motivation, self-improvement, and mindset videos, life lessons with Alice, hit the like button. Make sure you join my newsletter for more money-making tips on business and personal finance. And let me know down in the comments below what you thought about this video. I'll see you guys in the next video.